Hello, and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Green from coachvaleriegreen.com. And this podcast is dedicated to bringing you expert teachers to help you to feel a mind, body, and spirit connection, both with yourself and with your true love. And so today I'm really excited to interview emotional resilience coach Jennifer Fable. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yes, likewise. And we were chatting a lot beforehand about the title of the talk. I'm going to call it How to Set Boundaries Without Being Mean. And the title of her book is How to Set Boundaries Without Feeling Like a Dick. And of course, I'm happy to say that. I just think that the SEO is not as savvy for that. But I love the fact that Jennifer has really dedicated her life. We'll share a little bit more about her story. She will, but she really overcame a lot of mental health issues and is really resilient, which is, how she can help other people feel resilient. And so one of her favorite topics to talk about is boundaries, because who enjoys setting boundaries? Maybe we do if like we're in a, get out of my way kind of mood, but that's the mean way. So how do we set boundaries in a really integrous, caring, kind, compassionate way and still maintain our own integrity? That's kind of how I would put it. And so she's drawing on over 2 decades of experience in communication and personal development. And so in this interview, Jennifer is going to share tools, compassionate strategies, and really her own journey will inspire you to express your needs with clarity without guilt, conflict, or second guessing yourself. So I'm welcoming Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I am so excited. And yeah, you know what? The original title of my book was How to Set Boundaries with Calm and Clarity, but it was so long. So I just summed it up in without feeling like a dick.
Yes.
Right?
I like to joke about it just because it's like, I actually think that's a really good way of putting it, because that's what we all fear.
Yeah, that's the obstacle. We all know boundaries are important. We all agree. And then we go to actually do it and we feel terrible. We feel like we have to let other people down in order to choose ourselves, that somehow it's an either or. And I want to teach people how to be the bridge, how to create connections that are ands. And I think our world can really use a lot more and in it because we have a lot of ors going on. And so the more we can use language to create bridges with other people, to create and situations without losing ourselves, without having to give up who we are, which we think is the or. So if we can start doing that, then we start creating bridges to people around us without losing ourselves. And that's how we start to change the world. And it all starts not by learning to say no, because that's the most limited, it's the laziest of boundaries. It really
Yeah.
is. It takes no effort on my part to just say no to someone. All I'm telling them is that that immediate behavior that you are currently exhibiting is a no, but I'm giving them zero information about what I need to be able to do a yes.
Got it. Yeah.
Right? Which means I have to know what that means. What do I want? I have to know that. And so I have to do the internal work. And so my book is designed to help people do the internal work so that when they're setting the boundaries, they're sharing something kindly. And then I actually give the specific linguistics. So you just plug and play into a formula and it works every time. It works every time. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to chat and share this. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And gosh, I want to just jump right into, well, then what is the formula? But of course, I think that I and other people are curious about your story. Like, how did you overcome your mental health challenges and learn how to do the inner work to clarify what you wanted so that, because I completely agree with you that just saying no feels like a rejection to the other person. Whereas if you explain the reason why and what it is that you need in order to be a yes, then you feel more connected and you're collaborating with the person. And so I'm curious, I imagine that you didn't start out that way. So what was your journey to learn how to get there? And then, of course, we'll go more into the details.
Yeah, I was born perfect setting boundaries. Ping. No, I was raised in a highly enmeshed environment, so much so that I didn't realize it was a enmeshed environment. And what that means is that love was defined by lack of boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like if where there's love in this family, if there's love between people, then you don't need boundaries. Absence of boundaries is the very definition of unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
And we're taught that a lot. And so that was what I believed. And I found myself just feeling hopeless and stuck, and I couldn't do anything. And even though intellectually I knew things, and it started to come to a head. And so, yeah, when I was 19, it was always there. I think I saw my first psychologist when I was 7. And at the time, I already believed I was smarter than them. The strategies they gave me, I'm like, that's not going to work for me. Right. I don't know. So I was a resistant person. I'm a Taurus, so I'm stubborn. And so I found myself in a place where I didn't want to be here. And everywhere I turned, I was told I couldn't be helped.
Wow.
So the different diagnoses officially came when I was 19. That's when, I officially started to get help. But I've been struggling for years, and it was, anorexia, bulimia, major depression, generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. Not like I like my house clean, but like I have to knock 5 times, otherwise my family's going to die kind of OCD.
Mm-hmm.
Suicidal ideation and self-harm,
Wow.
which means that, yes, there are scars on my body that I put there. So I was a mess.
Yeah.
I was legit told by doctors that I was broken, that, some people just aren't born with the right neurotransmitters and it's not your fault, but we can't really help you. And so we can keep on playing and trying. And
Wow.
I kind of was in that place where, okay, that's what I believed. But then my anxiety started to get stronger, and it came out as a phobia. And with everything else, there's not much, but with a phobia, there's really only 2 options for dealing. Like there's no medication for phobias, right? There's antidepressants, there's anti-anxiety, there is no anti-phobia. So for phobias, you have 2 options to help yourself. You can either do exposure therapy, which means, so for me, my phobia was of any kind of bug or insect, which doesn't sound that big of a deal, but I live in a very buggy part of the world. So constantly things flying, and it started to make me agoraphobic, like I wouldn't leave the house kind of thing. And so exposure therapy, and I'm like, I'm not paying money for them to put me in a room with my worst nightmare. Like,
Right.
why would you do that? Or like hypnosis, or kind of the mind body area, which I thought was garbage, to be honest, at the time. I'm very science minded, very left brain, very academic minded, and that sounded like wooey nonsense garbage. But I couldn't leave my house, and I was desperate, and I didn't want to pay money to be in a room with a bug. So I reached out to my chiropractor. I'm like, do you happen to know anyone who does this? I don't want some weirdo like scrambling my brain. And she sent me to who ended up being my coach at the time, is still my coach to this day. And she's the first person who looked at me and said, "You're not broken. I can help you.
Wow.
If you show up and do what I say, I promise you." And I did not believe a single thing she said. And again, stubborn and smart, so that gets in my way sometimes. And I was shocked when, after 3 months, not only was the phobia gone, but the voices in my head that told me that I was worthless, that there was no point, that I couldn't do it, they were gone too.
Amazing.
And then I'm nosy and an academic, and I'm like, how'd that work? So I ended up learning it just because I wanted to. And I mean, I have a background in animal health and marketing. I didn't intend to work with others and kind of take this path. It found me.
Yeah.
And I figure if I was the most resistant person on the planet, like if it worked for me, then it works just because of human neurology. So why aren't people talking about this? Why aren't we being told that not only is it possible, but it's a lot easier than people think?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I found this path by accident, is the long answer to the question. That's how I got here, by a lot of resistance and swear words.
Right. Hence the
Yeah,
title.
that's the title. Yeah, because I think
no,
they think that there's something
mean,
special about me, but I was resistant like everyone else. I found the tools that worked, and I want other people to find them too.
yeah, no, I mean, I feel so inspired by that story, because it is always us being open to, it's kind of like that quote that's attributed to Einstein, that the problem can't be solved with the same level of awareness that created it. So we kind of have to open up ourselves to something outside of our current beliefs to try to see what happens. And the fact that you are so intellectually curious then allowed you to wait a minute, this actually worked. Well, what is behind this? And to actually study it and integrate it so that you can learn and grow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a degree in psychology. In 4 years of studying psych, we never talked about any of this.
Yeah, no, I
Why
know.
not?
It's
And
one of the reasons I've never gotten a master's in psychology because I just do the graduate programs for therapists that they'll let me take as a coach because that's where you learn actually how to heal.
yeah, right.
So,
I could tell you all the things that was wrong with me, but I couldn't tell you how I could actually like know what I want and show up healthy. That was never taught in psychology. It's just all
right.
like, what's wrong with you? Here's some pills. And that's a valid strategy, but it doesn't get you all the way to where you want to go. It just gets you, you know, not where you don't want to be, but not where you
Yeah,
want to go,
no,
right? So
exactly.
yeah, I think that it's something that's becoming more important in our society to start to be aware of, that we have this whole other part of us that's emotions, and that's the problem, right? It's cognitive behavioral therapy, so it's all about your thoughts and your behavior because that's objective data you can measure. But how do you objectively measure the subjective experience? And
Mm-hmm.
so our medical system has washed out emotions. We acknowledge they exist. We know there's an unconscious mind. We know how important it is. And that's the end of that. Okay, on to cognitive. Let's talk about your mother. Like that's kind of
Right.
where it ends. And so, yeah, I found myself being called to sharing this with others so that they know that there's other paths because, I bounced around. I found every hole in our mental health system and our medical system. So if there's anything I can do to help people find other resources, that's kind of what I do. And I try to do it in different ways. Like I run retreats, I have my private practice, and then the book was kind of born out of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I want to, of course, dive into the teachings in your book. I want to summarize, because we just really opened up some big topics that I think are important and too important not to say anything about, but too much information for this episode, that like I look forward to our healthcare system becoming more integrative. And, until that happens, I think that coaching is a really wonderful, of course, I'm tooting my own horn on yours, but it's a wonderful way to learn skills.
Toot toot. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. People
And,
need to know it's here. Toot away. Yeah.
as a coach, obviously, I can't claim to do therapy or heal trauma. But at the same time, we can teach skills. And, that's why I do all these trainings to teach skills and to facilitate people's own connection with their mind, body, spirit, and harmony as you do. And so for that, I want to pick your brain about boundaries.
Absolutely. Pick away.
Yes, exactly. So, in your book, I know that you talk about the misconceptions that people have about boundaries. And so, what is the biggest misconception that you see, and why do people struggle so much? Not just because we feel guilty, but I think we have beliefs about boundaries. So, let's talk
Absolutely.
about that first.
So I think that the biggest myth is that no is a complete sentence. And I know that that's a big thing that's touted. And while grammatically that's correct, no is a complete
Like
sentence.
a good idea if you're like in public with a stranger and they do something inappropriate. No is a complete sentence. But if you want to be more connected to the person, that's how I describe it. So it's like, sorry, I like to interrupt and say that because sometimes it is.
Sometimes,
Like,
yes, if physical
like
harm is in
yeah.
danger, yes, absolutely. If there's physical harm, you say no, you run, you call the right person, 100%.
Yeah. I would like to say that, but I think people then extrapolate that to, with my husband. I'm not going to just say no because he deserves to hear more about my inner experience so we can collaborate on what works for both of us. So I know that's where you're going. So anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Right. And it's less about, normally we want to have a conversation. We say, okay, no. And then we tell them why it's a no, which now feels like we have to convince someone of something. And so that's one of the things that keeps us away from doing it because we feel like we have to prove it. And that's no fun. Right. It also still doesn't give the other person any information about what it is that we want and what we need. So it still kind of leaves this gap.
Yep.
And so for me, I think that a lot of us run from boundaries because we think we have to say no hard stop, which in certain situations, yeah, you have to suck it up. You got to do it, run, like that kind of thing. Outside of that, you can have so much more compassion for a fellow human being if instead of saying no, you say, I appreciate your support and I've got this. It doesn't take me a lot more time, but it does linguistically change the entire message. And it gives this other person information about what I want and about me, not about what they can't do, what they shouldn't do, what I want them to do, why I'm doing what I'm doing, how I'm feeling about the why about my, like it's so much energy. And so I think that keeps us away from setting boundaries because we think we either have to feel like a jerk or that it's like we have to rehearse it for 50 years in our brain to get it right. And oh my God, I'm doing like a dissertation. Like we get so much in our head about it.
Yeah.
And so I think that stops us from setting boundaries. So we either have to be a jerk and be like, no, or we have to do this entire thing.
Yes.
Yes.
I've had thoughts before.
Yeah, right. And so we torture ourselves. And so one of the things that I teach is called the boundaries blueprint. It's plug and play for you. And then there's activities in each chapter to do the inner work so you start to understand not just what you're saying, but the motivation behind it. Like, what are your needs that's driving this? It's if boundaries are about protecting ourselves, I think it would be very helpful for us to know ourselves that we are protecting with the boundaries.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And so boundaries are where I am, where I'm not, what's in my realm of control, what's not in my realm of control. And it's, we exist on different layers of reality. So on my physical layer of reality, a boundary is no, don't touch me. Right. There's physical stuff. We know that very nice and easy. But where do I end and others begin emotionally or mentally or energetically? What are my needs physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically? What is in my realm of control on all those levels? What do I want within that? If I haven't explored that, then all I can possibly say is no, because I have nothing else to say. Right. But if I know what I need, if I can say instead of, you can't talk to me that way, which is wrong, they have full authority to do that, and you cannot stop them.
Right. That's technically trying to control them. That's what I like to talk about in my book, that boundaries are not telling somebody what they can or can't do because that's control.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries are saying, if you do that, it doesn't work for me.
Yes, but it's still that makes us feel like a jerk. Because right. I have to still be like there's still like an element. I have to be somewhat like puffed up to do that. Right. So it does keep me safe, but it misses an opportunity to use my boundary as a bridge.
Yeah. So,
right. So what I like to teach is the boundaries blueprint is a 3-step formula. First part's multiple choice. You pick only one of the 4 options. You say either I appreciate, I agree, I respect, or I love. Those are your only options.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Understand is not on the list. So we don't say I understand. That's one place we go wrong with boundaries. Say, I understand where you're coming from. Even if they don't admit it, somewhere deep down, there's a part of them going, no, you don't understand. If you understood, you'd agree with me.
Yeah, or if you understood, you'd reflect back my entire point of view to
right.
Let me know you understand, and that would take a long time, and then we'd be in a processing conversation.
Right, exactly, and then it's not a boundaries conversation, right? And so if we say I understand, it kind of complicates things. So I appreciate, we want to validate this other person. So I appreciate where you're coming from. I appreciate that you're angry. I respect that you have a right to scream at me. Right, like I love that you feel so comfortable in our relationship that you can be such a dick right now. Like you can something that validates their experience. And then the second part is you say the word and. Most of us say the word but, which linguistically cuts off the first part. So it basically tells the other person that nice thing I just said, I lied. I made it up just to make you listen to me. Right. So we want to say and to bridge it now to what we want. And then the third part is the important part. This is where we say I would love. And then we share with the person what it is that we want. And the key to this one is we have to avoid the word you. So I would love you to start speaking to me more gently. That's a control thing. I'm trying to tell someone else how to talk. Humans are funny beings. We don't like being controlled. It ticks us off.
Yeah, we don't want to be told what to do, especially if we're angry.
Right. And so it automatically puts us at opposing teams, right? If I say that, then they're going to go on the defense. If they get defensive, then I have no choice but to take offense. But what if I can use my language to keep us on the same side? So I appreciate that you're really upset, and I would love to be spoken to more gently. It's different than I would love you to speak to me more gently.
Absolutely.
Right. And so when we say it that way, there's really nothing for the other person to get confused about. They have had their perspective validated. I haven't, you know, erased it from them by saying the word but, and then I've bridged it to what I want as well, because it's okay that you want that. I want to put my hat in the ring as well. So this is what I want. And that's where a boundary is meant to be the beginning of a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
of a negotiation, which is something else I teach in the book, how to negotiate without compromise, how to use the boundary as a starting point for something deeper and more meaningful, which we miss out on if I say, no, you can't talk to me that way, or if you continue talking to me, I'm going to walk away. I can stay safe that way, but I learn nothing new about myself. I learn nothing new about the other person, and I create no framework for us to build trust, because trust is built when we navigate conflict through negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
So all that is a lot. So I wrote it in a book so that people can find it and do exercises to come to play along with it. So that's kind of what the book's about, and it goes through what our biggest obstacles are, but also how to move through it, how to find the you in the boundary, because that's the whole point of them. That's the point of them.
Right.
Yeah, I want people to see boundaries as a healing place, not as a limiting thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's only when we can own not just our limits, but our what it is that we need in order to be connected to the person. What would feel better than what's happening.
Yeah, how can I hold the duality of and that what you believe is valid and what you want is valid, and what I believe what I want is valid, and how can we negotiate versus telling each other why we're each valid?
Right, right,
Which is
exactly.
exhausting. And that's what keeps us away from boundaries, because we're like, oh, this is going to be a whole friggin' thing. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to
Yes.
be. So the boundaries blueprint is a single sentence. Um, there's a fourth magic step that you add in. So after you say the sentence, you have to, and this is the fourth step that like glues it all together. You have to say the sentence and then you have to be quiet. That's the key. You have to say, I appreciate that you're upset and I would love to be spoken to more gently. And then you have to wait for the other person to say something first. And I know my mom was resistant to boundaries in the highest capacity. So when I would say use this with her, she once waited like 45 seconds to respond, which is a very long time of silence. And
Especially for somebody like her, I imagine.
I just shared something vulnerable. It's vulnerable to say this is what I would love, and now you're just being met with like dead air. You're like tap tap. Is this thing
Yeah,
on?
right.
Hello. Like I'm waiting for like the tumbleweeds to fly across or the crickets or something. I'm like, is she buffering? What happened here? But that's literally what's happening. Their brain is buffering. They're trying to comprehend, because most people are expecting conflict. They're expecting
Right.
reasons or feelings, or they have to defend themselves. And so when you just share what you want without making it a command or demand for the other person, their brain's going to take a second. So you have to give silence for them to figure out what just happened.
Hmm.
And then I talk about in the book like how to deal with challenges, because chances are most people aren't going to be like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. I mean, usually
Right.
they're going to, right? That would that be nice? If you have those people in your life, keep them very close. They're fantastic. Make sure if you don't
Yes.
have one, go find one who's like that. But
Yeah. Although you
most
probably won't have to really do too much boundary work with that kind of person because they'll be more attuned.
Yeah, well, but or fake, because the boundary problems come up with people. If you know where you are, eventually you're going to rub up against where someone else is, right?
Yeah.
So, but how to handle it when they do what I call a yeah, but, where you say, I appreciate you're angry and I'd love to be spoken to more gently, and they're like, yeah, but, then they tell you why you suck,
Yes.
or they get angry, or honestly, what I always tell my clients, doesn't matter what they say, let them vent, even if they're calling you the worst things in the world. If you're physically safe, fine. If you're physically unsafe, you boot it. That's the out. But if they're just yelling and calling you names, it's okay. That's fine. Let them yell their names.
Well, as long as you can stay in your window of tolerance, right? Because I think like that's the danger is if we can't stay in our window of tolerance, which is different for everyone, then we can't maintain our sense of self to have a boundary, and then we're likely to attack back. But
Well,
if we can stay within our window of tolerance and be like, hey, inside my own head, I'm translating their criticism of me into their feelings and needs, and then I will empathize with them, then of course they can call me whatever they want and I'm still going to maintain my boundary.
yeah, I tell my clients to ignore, it doesn't matter what they're saying, ignore them, sing a song in your head, because it doesn't matter what they say. As soon as they stop talking, you're going to say yes. And I would love to be spoken to more gently.
Right. Just be a broken record.
Be a broken record by agreeing whatever they say. So if they're like, you're a terrible, horrible person, yeah. And I would love to be spoken to more gently.
Right.
Like that, sure. I'm not saying I agree with you. I'm saying that those words fell out of your face and you clearly believe that, or using, whatever. So yes. And I would like to be spoken to more gently. I am a horrible person who would like to be spoken to more gently. Like those can both exist at the same time. And you kind of keep doing that until either they boot it from the conversation, they just get annoyed. They're like, fine, whatever. And they take off, in which case, awesome. Great. Or it comes to the point of a deeper conversation. And the example that I always like to use, because it still gives me chills to this day. I had a client who had a tumultuous relationship with her father, is the nicest way to put it. Moved out, left, life circumstances happened, had to move back home, is now living with parents and the father, who very tumultuous relationship. And so it started to become problematic and explosive. And so my client decided to use this. So they said, I appreciate that you don't agree with my life choices, and I would love to feel supported by my dad. And their father is like, what do you mean I don't support you? I'm letting you live here and you're so angry, and all the things. And my client told me that they were singing actually a song from Wicked in their head. And this is like before the movie came out. And I'm like, I'm a musical theater nerd. So that made me happy.
The songs from Wicked.
Oh, so I can't wait for part 2 to come out of the movie. I'm like counting down the days. So they were singing that. And that's what I tell people. And that's, I think, how you stay in your window of tolerance. I don't have to listen to them venting about me. It's okay. So sing the song in your head. I personally sing, there's a 90s cartoon called the Animaniacs. And they have this Yakko's world, which is all the countries of the world.
I remember that.
I'm just like United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica. Like I know the whole song and I sing that in my head. Legit, because I'm a dork. So my client was singing Wicked, and so her father's like screaming at her, whatever. As soon as he stopped talking, she said, yeah, and I'd love to feel supported by my father. And again, he like, la, 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 and he yelled at her. And then by the third time, she said, yeah, and I'd love to feel supported by my father. And he just yelled out, I don't know how to support you. And apparently they both just like stopped and looked at each other. And they're like, oh. And then they ended up having a conversation. And my client says that one conversation like repaired years of damage, and they actually have like a relationship now.
Amazing.
So when we can use the words as a bridge and not let them, again, boundaries with myself, which I also talk about in the book, if they want to believe I'm a horrible person, that's okay. I'm still allowed to share what I want. And the cool thing is, even if they never actually change, how cool is it for me to say out loud and hear myself say, I'd love to be spoken to more gently. I would love to feel supported by my father. Hearing myself say that out loud is the embodiment of empowerment. It is so easy to talk empowerment and talk about empowerment as a value, but how do I live empowerment? I hear myself say out loud, I would love to wake up and have the kitchen clean. I would love to know that I have the love and support of my friends and family. I would love to know that I can speak up and not be punished for it.
Yes.
Even if the other person never changes, I get to hear myself say that. And that's the magic that boundaries hold. That's how they become a path of healing. I don't care what the other person says. That's why if they yell things at me, my window of tolerance is whatevs. United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica. Like that's literally what goes on, because it's just, do I want to do conflict resolution and negotiation with this person? This is a bridge in.
Yeah.
So all of that I've tried my very best to put in the book with different activities after each chapter, so that you can figure out all these little pieces, so that it's not just I memorize a sentence and I say it, but I also know the person that I'm protecting with this boundary, with this sentence, with this embodiment of empowerment.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it. That self-knowledge is the requisite for self-empowerment. So,
Yeah. And you can learn about self through boundaries versus thinking I have to know myself in order to have boundaries.
mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I feel inspired to repeat the formula because you've mentioned so many wonderful examples. And then, of course, I want to go into some what ifs because obviously, as you pointed out, it's easier said than done. But I love what you said because I completely agree. I understand what you're saying, or I hear what you're saying. Like the person's like, no, you don't. So, like saying, I appreciate where you're coming from, for example.
Yeah.
And you have other, like sentences, but like, I appreciate where you're coming from. And here's what I would love. Right.
So just I would love instead of the here's will it can get linguistically it just gets people's backs up, and so we want to linguistically keep it smooth. But it's I appreciate, I respect, I agree, or I love. I love how excited you are. And then the next part is I would love, and then saying what it is you want without making it a command or demand by saying you. So I would love, um, I would love to know that it's safe for me to express myself. And you can bring on all the what ifs because I will tell you I've lived millions of them. My mom was diagnosed cluster B personality, which means a mix of histrionic, narcissistic, borderline, and antisocial.
Wow, that's quite a mix.
It's a mixed bag of like what the hell. Like it's such a strange experience because it's my childhood, and so it just feels normal to me. But when I tell stories about my childhood, people are like, Jesus, that's crazy. So it's very kind of strange for me, but that was my reality. And so one of the defining features of cluster B in general is a lack of concept of boundaries and very low emotional resilience. And then it manifests in kind of different ways.
Right.
And so she was, when her chaos was moving towards the fun side, she was a blast. But when it was on the other side, her chaos was very destabilizing.
Of course.
And as long as I was compliant and had no voice of my own, everything was great. So childhood was excellent. But as soon as I started to realize that I have a right to be my own person,
right.
problems started. And then I saw my sister's 7 years older, and she's not a compliance person. Love you, Tracy. She's the one who she'll push the boundary. She'll test the system. She wants to be heard. And so I saw what she went through. And so I learned how to be silent and invisible. Mm-hmm. And so when I then started to figure out that I could exist in the world, my relationship with my mom went from idealized to I think this person's great to, oh my gosh, this is like horribly toxic and terrible. But I didn't want to lose her in my life. And so if these tools work with her, she is the litmus test. I had to, my boundaries, my favorite one with her is I love you and I want to be your daughter, not your therapist. She would hang up the phone and scream at me, and I'd say whatever. Hang up the phone, fine. Otherwise, like, yeah. And I would love to be your daughter, not your therapist, right?
So did she eventually stop offloading on you when you?
Nope. To the day she died, she tested every boundary. I teach in the book that every boundary must be tested a minimum of 3 times. And then I always used to add, unless you're my mom, and then it's constantly.
Yes.
So like
there were some relationships you have to keep reiterating the boundary, but that's your own empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. To the day she died, she tried to use me as a therapist, like constantly. And because I had these tools in place, I was able to have a relation. Like the general theory is with cluster Bs, you cut them off.
Yeah.
You use gray rock, you go no contact, you're done. Mm-hmm. And so I did some gray rock with my mom, for those who don't know the strategy of the communication of just being dull and boring like a gray rock. But I missed having a mother, and this is the only one I got. And so how can I use this as a healing lens for myself? And so I wanted to see, honestly, I'm just, I think, a nerd who wanted to do an experiment and psychological tests on my mother. There's probably like a passive aggressive element to that, but I just want to see, would this work on her? Because
also like for you to have as authentic a connection as possible, at least on your end, because authenticity is not possible for her. But it sounds like that was your intention.
Yeah, and to use it as a healing experience. Most people who have that kind of childhood are constantly in the shadow of my mom was, a narcissist and histrionic and like all these things, sociopathic, depending on the day, right? So how do I not carry the weight of that and not spend decades in therapy? How can I use every conversation for my own healing? Because every time I said to her, I love you and I would love to be your daughter, not your therapist, I felt myself take up a bit more space in the world.
Absolutely.
And I found that the more I did that, the more I healed. And the more I healed, the more I didn't need to go no contact because she didn't bother me. She had to pick up the phone and she's like, blah, was screaming at me. I'm like, nope, not doing this. Bye, going for dinner. Hang up the phone. Like it didn't bother me because it's fine. Right. So I think that if people want to maintain or have to maintain connection, sometimes the person we're co-parenting with them. We can't get away from some people, even if they are the most toxic of toxic people, is stuck with them. So how can I not feel like I'm fighting this? How can I use my voice as a bridge even to that toxic mess such that it heals me?
Yeah, I think
that's the crux of it.
Wonderful example of energetic boundaries. And then the communication comes from that, because you're very clear about your healing intention for yourself, no matter what's going on the outside.
Yeah. What's the healthiest option that I can pick here?
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, then you are sending, compassion towards the other person, but you're not taking in any of the toxicity. You're saying,
sometimes I'm sending compassion.
At least in your word, maybe not compassion, but acceptance.
Appreciation. I don't have to accept it. I can appreciate that someone's yelling right now. Like, I want to make sure that whatever I'm appreciating, I'm not pandering. Like, I appreciate that you have a right to be angry. That maybe, like, it has to be honest. Like, I'm not going to say I respect your decisions when right now I think that you're a mess, but like, I can appreciate that you're a mess right now. Like, I can even use that as a starting point. Like, I appreciate that this is whatever this is. And I would love to have this conversation in 10 minutes after I've calmed down.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right. That's
legit.
And it worked with my mom. So it can work with, and if she's literally used to say to me, I don't understand. Like, you're talking about boundaries. I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, I know, mother.
I know, and here's what I want right now.
Here, right? Yeah, and I would love. I think one time I said something along the lines of like, I appreciate that you have no idea what I'm talking about, and I would love to know that my words are still heard.
Yeah,
right. Or I appreciate that this is not okay with you, and I would love to hear my mother tell me the words, "I'm proud of you." That was a really powerful one for me to say. That one felt really good. And she did say proud of it. I had to repeat that one numerous times. It's amazing the fight I got on that one.
Wow.
But then, yes, and I would love to hear my mother say the words, I'm proud of you.
And good for you for continuing to advocate for that.
Yeah, that's who else is going to.
Right.
That's my job. I got to take care of this thing I was given.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think if there's a soundbite from this interview, it's that.
Right.
For the people that are listening instead of watching, they can see that you really motion to your entire self. But that's what, the essence of it is that that's the essence of my podcast too, that it's only when we really create that mind, body, spirit connection with ourselves. And we need to do that in order to know what we would love instead.
Yeah.
That we can have the potential to create that with another person and or to create healthy boundaries with another person, if they're not the kind of person that's capable of true intimacy.
Yeah, I can, even someone who's incapable of intimacy, I can still build a bridge to whatever capacity they're able to build it. Some people will walk right across the bridge and hang out with me. Some people will meet me halfway. Some people will stand on their shore and say, you come to me. And some people will say, I can't find the bridge and fall into the water and fall off the bridge. Like, it's fine. My job is to build that bridge and then see what their capacity is. Yeah. And if they walk across the bridge and I'm like, ew, I don't want you in my space anymore, then I know, don't build a bridge with that person in the future. I don't really want to anymore. So
right.
Yeah. But
and I love that you talk about all those possibilities in the book And I want to ask you questions about that. The first question I want to ask is, let's say that somebody, because I love that you're singing in your head while the person is yelling at you or calling you names. I think that's appropriate to not really listen to anybody being mean to you.
Yeah.
But what if the person is not being mean to you? What if they are explaining the reasons why they can't honor your boundary? Then what's the negotiation process look like? Because I imagine it's less about building a bridge towards what you need, and it's more about meeting in the middle on a mutual bridge where you're listening and validating them and then asking them to listen and validate you until you come to a win-win. But that's, of course, my that's my process with my husband, because he's very articulate. Like, if I'm saying, no, that doesn't work for me, here's what would work for me instead, and then he's like, well, that wouldn't work for me, but here's what would work for me instead. Then we're in a negotiation.
Right. Or sometimes it ends up being compromised. Now it becomes a power struggle. Like, so I think the example I use in the book is, let's say I want to paint the front door blue and my husband wants to paint the front door black. Right. And if I say, well, here's all the reasons why I want a blue door, I tell you why. And usually that just makes you want your black door more. And now you're going to tell me all the reasons you want the black door, right?
I'm not really talking about the reasons, because that's intellectual. I'm talking about the needs, meaning the experience that we want to have on the inside. So
right.
I want to be spoken to more softly or more kindly is a need. It's an experience that I want on the inside. So it's not an explanation of the reasons. I'm sorry. That's more what I'm talking about.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So in the negotiation model that I teach, it's about using language to get more perspective. And so instead of asking someone, why do you want the door black? Or, tell me about what this means for you, I would say, for what purpose do you want the door black?
Mm-hmm.
And then ideally they ask me, for what purpose do you want it blue? And then, so let's say I want it blue because it's fun and creative, and you want it black because it's mysterious and sophisticated. Okay, so can we find something that is mysterious, sophisticated, and fun and playful?
Yes. Exactly.
And then we come up with something that satisfies that criteria. Yes. Which could be purple, which could be red, which could be silver with tinsel. I don't know. Could be a dark wood and mahogany door. Like, there's a million options. And then we brainstorm from that level. So now we're a team solving it together based on not just the individual needs, because oftentimes, especially if we're not clear with our language, our needs get mixed up into our feelings, which the other person can then feel like they're responsible for fixing.
Right.
But more about, what is your underlying purpose or intention of this want? And if we can work with the intention behind it, it's easy to match intentions with people. Yeah. It's harder to match wants.
Yes, absolutely. I talk about it like nonviolent communication needs, which are experiences that we want to have on the inside. It's not the way people traditionally talk about needs. Like, so the question that I ask is, what does that provide for you? Have it black or blue? It gets to the same place. But so I think that, our philosophies are very much in alignment, that it's really about getting out of our head and into the intention behind why we want what we want. And if the other person starts out being open to that, then of course it could be a negotiation. But if they're not, and they're just being belligerent, then of course it's about staying in our window of tolerance by not paying attention to their belligerence and keeping on affirming the experience that we want to have, that we would love to have.
Yeah, well, they don't get off the hook if they're being jerks.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so if I say to them, for what purpose do you want the door black? And they're like, I didn't, you never asked me anything. And they just go mumbling off. There's no reason for me to listen to that. That's not an answer to my question. Right. That's just them processing face vomit. That's fine. Right. So I can let them do that. And then when they're done, I can say, yeah. And for what purpose do you want the door? Like, that's
right, exactly.
Right. So that's why it's just, for me, I consider it irrelevant data. I'm like, I'll still listen and scan, like, kind of like anything important going on here. Nope, still yapping about nonsense. Okay, yep. Okay, yep. Nope, still haven't answered my question. All right, cool, awesome. Like, I'm kind of scanning it that way, because they haven't answered the question. So I can still, even if somebody who's belligerent, I can still come to the table and I can still stay. I don't have to get sucked into their drama. I'm like, yeah, okay. And for what purpose do you want it black?
Right. And so I guess the question is, what if you can't help but get sucked into their drama? Like, what if they're saying things that actually do get under your skin, and then, you feel triggered, and then you can't stay present anymore?
So what that means is that something that they said got into one of your boundaries, either the physical, emotional, mental or energetic layer of reality. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a meat boundary problem. That's somewhere I've let in. I have somehow put above my own belief someone else's belief. I've put above my own emotion someone else's emotion. So I've let it into, I talk about like your energetic bubble, which is your sphere of influence, extends to basically whatever I can touch. If I can touch it and reach out to it, it's in my sphere of influence. Anything beyond it, I need to like get up and get it, or I have to have some assistance, right? And so if someone's yelling at me and they're like, "You're a terrible person," I imagine like they're throwing a baseball at me. If I catch the thing and I'm like, "I'm a terrible person," oh yeah, that's going to stick around, then I'm going to get triggered. But I don't have to. That's not mine. So I don't have to actually even let it in. I can be like, "That's not mine." I can just toss that back. And I literally just imagine that. Sometimes I imagine putting like a little glass cake dome over the person so I can still hear them and see them. But I imagine like they're behind this protective space and bubble. So I'm in my own space. So I just, if something that they're saying is triggering me and they're not actually physically touching me, that means that on some level, I have accepted what they're saying as truth. And that's the problem, not
Right.
what they're saying. Right? Someone's saying you're a horrible, terrible, disgusting person. Trying not to swear because it's usually what would come out of their mouths. If they're like,
Right.
if I know that I am worthy and enough and lovable and kind and generous and compassionate, and that anything they're saying doesn't apply to me, then it can't actually trigger me. It's just me accepting that this might be true about myself, catching that ball and holding on to it. And so if something gets in and I've been triggered, then I need to do work on my energetic boundaries, which again, I talk about in the book, my mental somewhere. There's something that I'm missing, or this is about something else, and I need to process my emotions, which I also talk about in one of the activities, how to do that. So there is a possibility to go up to a place where if someone's triggering me, then I'm somehow letting in something that is either a truth that I need to deal with or is not a truth and it doesn't have to be here. So
Yeah.
check, do I need to deal with this? Am I actually this? Nope. Thanks for your opinion.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. No, I
Right.
mean, I completely agree with you. And, at least for me, just because I grew up in a chaotic environment that was much less than yours, big difference in degree, but not kind, energetically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and because on the surface it looked like there was a lot of structure, but it was chaotic underneath. So, I mean, for me, I need to really every morning do a practice to center myself, to create my energetic boundaries, to align my chakras, to like really make sure that I do have a healthy sense of my own values, my own purpose, my own intentions for my life and for the day. And I'm really reminding myself of those and grounding myself of those in my body. Um, and if I do that, then it's easy for me to do the things that you're saying because I'm in touch with my own energetic boundaries. And if somebody's being mean to me, then that doesn't go in because I know who I am. But so my question is for people who find it hard to stay centered and know who they are when somebody else is coming at them, what practices do you recommend people do to
Yeah.
remind themselves of who they are?
I love this question because I like. There is a practice that I teach. I think it's under free resources on my website. I talk about it in the book. It's called Rage Work. Rage stands for Release, Anger, Gain Empowerment. It is
Mm.
a somatic practice. It is a intuitive development practice. It is 5 minutes, so it's stupid easy to fit into a day. And it teaches us how to give actual time and space for our emotional experience and to give ourselves a brief amount of time with our thoughts out of the way so that we are more in the flow, which is what our intuition asks us to do. And oftentimes we want to access our intuitive self, but we think we have to hold down the floodgates of the emotions. And anger is the emotion specifically designed to let us know when our boundaries are being challenged. That's its entire function. It's the alarm system. So people, and this was me. I remember my coach is like, "How often do you get angry?" I'm like, "I never get angry." And she's like, "Red flag." I'm like, "What?" I thought that just meant I was super cool and chill. She's like, "No, you're meant to feel angry when there's injustice, when they're not being treated fairly, when you're giving too much or when you're not taking enough." And so anger is anger is the emotion that lets us know about our boundaries. Our boundaries are what define our space and place in the universe.
Yep.
No small feats. And so our anger is a beautiful way to help us figure out and give expression of the times when we got it wrong with our boundaries, because that's going to happen too. Being human means that there's going to be other dumb humans being their dumb, silly selves banging into us sometimes. And so the anger work process I really like because I said it's an embodied somatic practice combined with a stream of consciousness intuitive writing element. And so it quickly bridges the gap and gives you a space to fully explore the shadow side, the darkness, the words that it's valid to want to scream at like your in-laws, "I hate you, you suck, what's wrong with you?" Valid emotional experience, but we want to make sure that we're building bridges to people.
Yes.
So we put the words of "you suck, I hate you, what's wrong with you" into the rage practice, into the journaling part. That's where that gets expressed so that I can show up to the conversation to build a bridge without having to keep the little demons at bay.
Yes.
Right. Which I mean, I run retreats about the chakras. I'm all into like the energetic and bubbling and grounding. And of all the tools and practices, the one that is still the most transformative is the rage process. And it's just, you set a timer for 2 minutes. For 2 minutes, do some sort of physical activity. It can be as vigorous as like punching a pillow. I like to just clench and unclench my fists and kind of do this. Anything that means you're physical. I've had people scribble, scrunch paper, tear paper. I have some clients who have Nerf bats. Like, no, like that's I like it. It's aggressive. So anything physical, but I've done it lying in bed where I've just lied there and just did this, right? When life is being hard, and I just do that. So something physical for 2 minutes.
Or like I've noticed, I don't know, because I have a really thick foam mattress. Because pillows don't really get rid of the sound, and we live in an apartment building. But if I scream directly into my mattress,
yes,
there's no sound that comes in. Like,
yes,
can hear it.
It's basically screaming into soundproof. So yes, screaming into it works with a pillow too, actually. Now I will say, just energetically, don't scream into the bed that you're lying in every night, because you might find energetically your dreams get weird or sleep becomes hard. So if you're going to do that, get like a separate, like cut off a chunk of mattress, right? So I have people, when they use a pillow, buy a dedicated like anger pillow, and just do something physical. And then after your 2 minutes is up, you reset your timer for 3 minutes. You have to use a timer because time flows differently with our emotions. And then for 3 minutes, you put your pen on a piece of paper, and your job is to just keep it moving for the 3 minutes. So if you're writing like nothing's coming up, you can just repeat the last word, or just write nothing's happening. What's going on? Why is nothing happening? Why has nothing ever happened for me? And then if halfway through a thought, a new thought comes in, you just start writing a new thought. So this is not like, "Dear diary, I was angry about," like, this is not that. This is just whatever garbage needs to blob its way out of your brain, because it's clogging up the joint and it's stopping us from being able to know what we want and how we want to show up in the world. Or the times when we are triggered, instead of being like, "I'm triggered, I'm stuck in this place," go kick the snot out of something, go journal whatever garbage needs to come out of your brain, and then figure out how to now build a bridge back. So to me, that's still my favorite practice. And like I said, if anyone wants information, if you go onto my website, which is btgwellness.com, there's a free resources section. I've got the guided meditation for the energetic boundaries on there. The rage process is there. A couple other things from the book are in there as well, just so that people have access to it. Yeah, but that's my favorite daily, not even a daily practice. It's my favorite regular practice. If you do that 2 or 3 times a week, you don't need to spend hours and hours trying to balance yourself. It keeps the energy moving, which is better than stagnant energy.
Yes, no, I agree. I do something similar when I feel angry, and it's extremely important for me to then take it out on people.
Yeah, right. It is so much less paperwork to punch a pillow than a person. You
Well,
punch
yeah.
a person, there's so much paperwork and lawyers and like money. Just punch a pillow, yell in your journal, and then go be a good human being.
I don't actually physically punch people, but my words can pack a punch sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. Yeah,
Not
yeah,
if I do a practice like the one you just mentioned. So I completely agree.
yeah. It's a valid human experience to get ripping angry at even the people we love the most. And
Yes.
so giving it
And
somewhere to go and then showing up with what we want versus making them responsible for our anger, making ourselves the victim of it.
right.
Valid options, but why?
No,
There's
that
better
just,
options.
that's sort of like, because anger is legitimate if it's an emotion that's moving through us. But if we're ruminating on the victim story, then it's kind of like that quote that resentment is like drinking rat poison and hoping the rat will die.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly. And we poison ourselves with our own like hormone neurotransmitter juices because
mhm,
we're so afraid of saying, hey, I would love to be spoken to more gently. And because we're
right.
not taught that. And so when I do that, I can literally change the biochemistry of my body. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool,
Yep. I
I
know.
think.
I know it's amazing. And the science is literally just coming out with all of the information that we're saying. It's
Yeah.
really inspiring. And so I completely agree that, which is why I teach what I teach too, that
Yeah.
the mind, body, spirit connection and wholeness and integration of ourselves so that we can be energetically whole and feel that we have the clarity about what we would love to experience and that we can communicate that as a bridge to connection with another person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what healthy relationships are all about.
That's emotional resilience. That's it in a nutshell. Emotional resilience is knowing who I am, what I want, and how to get my needs met in a way that empowers me and the people around me. That's it. It's so simple. It's not always easy, and we're
Right.
not taught it. We are taught. I mean, every Hallmark movie is like the complete opposite. It's love means giving up everything. I'm like, lie down on a
Yeah.
bed and he'll climb up a tower and get you. And I'm like, that's terrifying.
Or it'll just fall into place, you just have the courage to follow your heart. And it's like, well, okay, but there's a lot more details than that.
Yeah, like love is a feeling and it is all this, but it's also a skill set.
Yes, exactly.
And we're not taught the skill set. I was not taught the skill set of love.
Yeah,
I was
no.
taught the skill set of like just do what we tell you to do and be obedient and we'll love you.
Yes.
Right. And so I was a very obedient person, but I didn't know who I was. And so my
Yeah.
hope is that this book helps people anywhere on the spectrum, anywhere someone is on their boundary journey, if they're looking for a way to feel better about it, if they're like, I think I'm okay at boundaries, but I still hate doing it. I'm hoping that this book will help with that too.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because it's about really clarifying what we love and expressing that. So,
Yeah.
then hopefully it won't be so hateful. um,
Yeah. Let's put healing words into our world. Man, do we need that. The more people who are putting healing words and bridges into the world, the faster we have a healed world with bridges connecting us. And it starts with me knowing who it is that I'm bringing into the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I want to, of course, repeat your website. It's B like boy, T like Tom, G like great wellness.com.
Yep. Stands for Bridge the Gap in case anyone's like, what the hell? Yeah, Bridge the Gap Wellness. So BTG Wellness.
Yes, yes. And you mentioned wonderful resources on there. You also offered a free gift, which is a online course that you have called Rewrite Your Story. So that's, I imagine, working with your beliefs, and, which is extremely important. So I'll post the link to that below this video or in the show notes to the audio. It's BTG Wellness // rewrite. So that I'll post the link there, but you've just shared so many amazing resources and inspiration, so I really appreciate, and I agree that all these tools are simple but not easy. So if there's one thing that you want people to take away from this conversation, what would you want it to be?
That no one's actually broken, that everyone has the ability to find deeper healing, that it doesn't have to require decades in therapy doing an autopsy of your childhood and pain, that there are absolute ways to heal from the past in a way that empowers you and others. And that if anyone's not sure how to do that, that there's resources out there that they can reach out to, coaches like yourself, coaches like myself that are there to help support and give them different perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said.
Thank you.
I think all of this, and I mean, I've only read some of your books. So after this, I'm definitely going to read all of it because I feel really inspired and moved by the simplicity of the practices that you have shared as well, because we can all use just more streamlined tools to use in the increasingly chaotic world that we're living in.
Right? Like, just tell me what to say, tell me when to say it, tell me what to do. I need this. So my book is literally, this is how you do it. This is what you do first in this order, then do that, put it all together. Ta-da. So yeah, I wanted to make it nice and thorough, but easy for people to follow.
Yeah. And so I encourage everybody to check out Jennifer's book as well. And, I'll put the link to your book as well below this. So how to set boundaries without feeling like a dick.
Yeah, which is on Amazon. If they wanted to find more information, they can go to nicenomore.com.
Okay.
Or directly through my website, and you can read, I think, the first chapter or the preface is on there. And then all the links to, I'm working on getting it onto Barnes and Noble, but currently it's on Amazon.
Yes, I know that whole thing.
Yeah.
Same thing with my book. I'm like in the process of publishing it more widely and whatnot.
So transfer titles, huzzah.
I know.
I'm learning so many new words. So, but yeah, people can find all that information. And if there's a question, people are welcome to reach out to me. I offer complimentary meet and greet via Zoom and have a conversation. I like to say, if I can solve your problems in an hour, I will. If not, I can plug you into resources to at least get you on the next step.
Yes, that's so generous of you. And so I will definitely put the link to your general website there too, where people can find you, as well as the link to the online course. And I'll put the link to your book as well. So lovely. I encourage people to reach out and connect with Jennifer because, this has just been a really inspiring and touching interview for me. So I hope it is for you. And I hope that everybody watching or listening has time today to really connect to what they love and their positive intention in the world so that you can create that bridge to have authentic connection with the people that you want to be connecting with in your life. And that Jennifer's inspiration can help with that. So
absolutely. I like to tell people I shine my light so bright, I ignite the light in others. That's what I teach. That's what I hope for the world, that if we can all just do that, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, right. No small feat, but I completely agree. So I hope everybody has, in that regard, a day filled that's brilliant with your own light so you can shine it on yourself and others.
Love it.
And until next time.